Okay, so we're here with the Plando. If you saw the first video in the playlist, this is the Plando that I made to help people learn medium tech for Super Metroid Map Rando. As the description says, it's all completable with medium tricks, but it also includes a lot of hard tricks that I intended to make your life a little bit easier to avoid some backtracking. So this video, we're going to go into the spoiler itself and talk about the logic of how I intended for you to complete this seed and like what tricks are there and what tricks are medium, what tricks are hard kind of thing. This is probably going to be one of the longer ones in the playlist. This is more for people who maybe have already completed the seed and want to go back and make sense of what they've seen. So yeah, let's jump right into it. We start out in West Ocean. I started here because one of the things that is in medium logic is platforming across the platforms here in West Ocean. This room right here. Getting across these platforms with no equipment is in medium logic. That's one of the things that kind of surprised me because this platforming is pretty tough. It's easy to like bonk the ceiling here. There's also a ripper over here, an enemy that goes back and forth that can just knock you down and you're having a bad time. But this is in medium logic, so you need to learn how to do it. So this is the first one that I wanted to start with, again, to give people exposure to this, to kind of let them know, hey, you're gonna need to learn this if you want to do medium difficulty races. So yeah, that's the first trick in the Plando. Then we get a freebie E-Tank here. You get a save. I wanted to put the save here so if anyone was like struggling a lot with this platforming, they can just get a breather and have some peace of mind after, be like, okay, I don't have to do that again. So the next thing you get here is Morph Ball. It's a freebie. You got to do some platforming up through here, but if you've completed Super Metroid, you can do that. It's not a big deal. So after Morph, see, this is where it gets a little inobvious. So what the logic wants you to do here is this Power Bomb pack. That's not what I intended for you to do, and I don't think a lot of people are going to do that first, because we have another trick. If I pull up the actual Plando file, you can see I put some super missiles up here, and there's a super door way over here. So my intent is for you to grab this first. But logic doesn't actually expect that. This is called sky missiles for people who are in the know. The trick in question, let's filter for hard. And we're looking for this trick. This item right here from any to 9. So this one looks like it's in medium, but it's not. So this is where it gets kind of tricky looking through the logic on things. This is also just a good tutorial on like learning logic on certain tricks. Sometimes it's gonna be very weird. Logic on this, it shows it in medium because there's a version of this that's doable in medium. The one in the video is not in medium. So what it wants, there's an OR gate. So it says OR. This one. This is an OR. And then this is one. This is another one, I think. Yeah, this one. So, this version says can use frozen enemies. That means you need Ice Beam. This one is can precise wall jump. Can precise wall jump is in fact a medium tech. Yeah, so can precise wall jump right here. That's in medium, cool. So if you have Ice Beam, you can do that. Sick. Or you can do can tricky wall jump. This is where it's tricky, because can tricky wall jump right there. It's in hard. So this grouping, this part of the OR gate is hard tech. And then you have this one. Can careful jump and can camera manip. Okay, what about careful jump? Can careful jump, that's medium tech, cool. But camera manip is in hard. So because of that, the only way this variant of sky missiles is in logic is with Ice Beam. There's another version with high jump that's under not bootless, so high jump also puts that in medium, maybe even basic, I'm not sure. So yeah, that is why this part of the map is completely grayed out. However, this thing comes up a lot in all difficulties of Map Rando. So it is very beneficial to learn this. So I wanted to put it in here so that like people are incentivized to learn and practice this trick. I'm gonna do a tutorial on this because there's several variations, and I kind of want to be pretty thorough in going over all the versions of sky missiles you can do. But yeah, anyway, so that's some of the kind of stuff we're gonna be running into. I'm gonna move through the rest of this a little more quickly, but you get the idea. Like this, the intended route that I intended is to get supers from sky missiles and then do a bunch of other stuff. But the way logic wants you to get those is actually to go over here with your morph ball in a construction zone, get power bombs, and then come all the way back around to get supers over here. Because this is another thing I kind of intended. So if you're unaware, in West Ocean, you need some sort of spring ball or bombs to get through this tunnel. If you drop down here, you will be stuck unless you can bomb jump out. Power bombs let you do that. But if you're not paying attention, you just drop down there, you might get stuck, and because you might not be thinking about it. So that's kind of a little trap I put in there. But again, I tried to make sure there was a save room right here, so even if you do get stuck, you're not losing a ton of progress. So yeah, but the logical thing is get your power bombs first, and then these supers are accessible. You could get both of these super packs. What you can do, you can get the sky super missiles, then you can come down here. You can go do the E-tank. So you have 2 E-tanks now. There's also a major down here, by the way. Just like the super missiles, this is not logical without power bombs. Because technically shooting this block is a camera manip. A lot of us who are used to hard tricky just kind of do this without thinking a lot of the time, but it's technically a camera manip, which as we saw with sky missiles, is not in logic. Because camera manip is hard tech. Where is it? There. It's under hard. So yeah, these are some things that could like trip you up in logic if you didn't know. These are things you should learn anyway. You should just learn to get this item at bottom left of West Ocean. If you get morph, you should just go for this. It's a no-brainer. But it's also worth knowing that it's out of logic because that can have some implications when you're doing big brain stuff. So what I kind of intended here is you get the sky missiles, then you come down here, and if you can gate glitch, then you can get these supers, you have the farm here, and you can gate glitch back. So that's some of the hard tech that gets you super missiles earlier than you should be getting them. And you can leave wreck ship with 2 super missile packs. That will become relevant later. You'll notice a theme. Pretty much every intended logic break using hard tricks gives you a super missile. And yeah, the reason, I'll just go ahead and say it's for Ridley. You've probably already played the seed if you're watching this. It's for Ridley. So yeah, then we get some missiles. Then we are in Big Pink. Oh right, missiles unlock Spore Spawn, yeah. So this is a thing I didn't even think about, but yeah, Spore Spawn is not going to be in logic to fight without missiles because Spore Spawn doesn't drop super missiles. If you're doing the fight with only super missiles, you need 4 super missiles to kill Spore Spawn. So it gives you missiles so that if you miss, you can farm back up. And here is a fun little logic break. This is probably not what most people are going to go for first because I can show you in the Plando that up here is your map. So most people are going to see that and want to go that way first. So the intended idea is like you come here, you get your save, and then you see map is up here. You come up here, then you run into Green Hill Zone, which requires a reverse gate. You'll notice wave beam is nowhere to be found. So another thing, this is another spot where you get rewarded for being able to do gate glitch. As you can see, the spoiler that's following medium logic says this is out of logic because you're not supposed to be able to gate glitch. At this point, you have access to 20 projectiles, so you could easily have 15. You got 2 missiles and a super, so you're pretty much guaranteed to have 15 projectiles. Oh, there's even 2 more here. So you should have enough projectiles to put this gate glitch in hard logic. So if you've practiced them, you just do it, you get the map, and you get rewarded. Breaking logic means you don't have to backtrack, because otherwise, you have to get your wave beam from all the way down here. And that's a long walk. Next up is Variasuit. So the logical way to get this, again in medium, we're talking medium logic here, you're not expected to be able to do the reverse Spore Spawn super block. I believe that still counts as a camera manip. If it's not a camera manip, it's something similar, because you have to be standing on a specific pixel to shoot the super block. So logically, you have a way to get there. You go through Spore Spawn supers, you come up and then all the way around. And I intentionally made this a really yucky loop. You have power bombs to get through Gauntlet. You got options. You can get here without learning the shot through the super block. But again, I figure this is such an important trick for people to learn for racing purposes that I wanted to incentivize and reward doing this. So every person I've seen who's played the Plando so far, which these are people who are familiar with Map Rando races, but every person I've seen who's played this has just gone straight for this because it's a no-brainer if you know the trick. And again, we'll go through these and talk through specific tricks and get tutorials for some of those later on in other videos in this playlist. But yeah, you get various suit. There's also another super missile here that you get by going across Yoink Room, because can play in sand. Is that hard tech, I think? Yeah, can play in sand. So that would be getting across safely across a sandy room. So it's not a medium to actually get across here without something like gravity suit and space jump, or maybe just space jump. I'm not sure. But yeah, there's another super missile here, as you can see right there. By the time you get to Ridley, you can have 35 supers. If you're being thorough and doing all the hard tricks, you can pretty reasonably do Ridley on the first pass. So yeah, then we just have a bunch of zigzags. This I did in order to prevent someone from accidentally skipping Varia, because if you just skip Varia here, you're going to have a hard time with the later parts of the seed, because I didn't design it around not having Varia. So I did this. I wanted to do Acid Chozo actually, because that would have like pretty much hard required Varia suit, but it turns out in medium difficulty, you actually have to give either Space Jump or a Shine Spark to get across to the Acid Chozo. Otherwise, it will consider it out of logic. No like Acid Dive or anything that you can do. So yeah, I made sure you only get 3 tanks, so it should be pretty obvious to anyone that you need to grab this major before continuing. So yeah, once we do that, then you get access to Speed Booster. Yeah, then we get Shack Tool. You can, I wanted to do this to teach reverse Shack Tool, where you have the snails. You can just wait for the snails and they'll clear the sand for you. But there's another method where you jump over them, shoot them, and make them move faster, and we'll get to that. But yeah, clearing the snails, that's something for people to learn. X-ray, room. It's pretty straightforward room with some morph tunnels and moving pistons. And you get Speed Booster. Now, Speed Booster, this is where logic gets weird again. If you've done a lot of Map Rando, watch people play Map Rando, you probably know that you can start in dry room. You can be in a dry room, and as long as you're holding run when you leave the dry room, it will continue to charge a Shine Spark through the water room. This is a very trivial trick, but it's a knowledge check. So again, logic puts it in hard difficulty. Can water shine charge? That's what we're talking about here. That is in hard difficulty. So once again, a lot of people know about it. A lot of people will just do it, but it's not in logic. So the way I designed this is I made it so you get Speed Booster, you see Aqueduct with a major because you already have the map because you killed Fantune. You see the save station and you're like, okay, I can get back from that. I can get those items. Cool. You get it. You get Wave Beam. So even if you didn't do the gate glitch in Green Hill Zone, from here you can grab Wave Beam and backtrack to do Crate. Then there's another Super Missile over here. This one is a very hard trick, but this is something that comes up a ton in hard tricky races. This is one, again, kind of like the West Ocean bottom left item. You should just learn it anyway. This is Watering Hole. You can jump down and grab the items, and then the way out, you need to do a stationary spin jump into a, like a one tile gap underwater wall jump, which is basically just mashing. It's not that difficult to get. It's more annoying than anything. So yeah, that's something that people should learn. So I decided to put a Super Missile there. Again, so at this point you're up to 25. So you're already well on your way to being able to do Ridley. But yeah, with your Wave Beam, Super Missile, and Speed Booster, then we leave down to Korra Room. Then there's a Shine Spark across Firefly Room. Again, just kind of demonstrating places to use Shine Sparks to get people thinking more creatively. I did a lot of stuff with Speed Booster because there's a lot of like surprisingly simple tricks you can do with Speed Booster that don't come up very often, but like you need to know about them because otherwise you could really get hard stuck by not thinking about, oh, I can just Shine Spark across this room. So like in a race, you would really want to know about that so you can spot it quickly and just do it. And then you'll notice Tourian is kind of just barren. Norfair especially, all of these tricks, we'll get to in a minute, but all of these tricks kind of move the player left to right. So I really didn't have space to put this way over here. So I just needed a really long connecting zone that came down here. This is all just kind of filler stuff. You can grab these if you want. I put missile doors here. Again, that's kind of a subtle communication to be like, hey, this isn't as important as these green doors over here. I feel like most people will miss that, but it's whatever. You get some freebie power bombs to make sure you're not running out of ammo. Because I haven't given you bombs yet, I felt like it was pretty important to give you power bombs so you don't like get stuck anywhere for no reason. Yeah, there's a missile behind a Metroid room. Most people would probably just skip this, but you have enough power bombs, you can just kind of spam to get rid of them. When we go across here, thread the needle. That room comes up a lot, so get used to it. And then this is where the fun begins. At this point, you have all of your ammo types. You have Morph Ball, you have Varia, you have Speed Booster. All things considered, that's not a lot of equipment. And then you run into the waterlogged elevator. Even in hard difficulty, this typically requires Gravity Suit. Except there's one other option, which also doesn't come up very much. But surprisingly, it's in medium. You can charge a Shine Spark down here in Morph Ball Room, and then you can come up to the elevator and diagonally spark up. It's come up in a few hard tricky races, but even then it still tends to catch people off guard. But it's actually in medium difficulty, so you need to know this. Diagonal Shine Spark right here. This is what it looks like. You charge a spark from down below, you come in here, you jump to the right, diagonal left. You don't have a ton of time to do this, but it's a decent amount of time depending on how close the elevator was to your sparking point. There's also a method, if this is easier for you, you can just spark straight up through this gap right here, but that's harder to line up. The diagonal just kind of works as long as you jump far enough right. Okay, so yeah, that's our first like obscure speed booster tech. Again, we got more filler missiles. You can grab these if you want. This plasma room is not for the faint of heart. You should save before going in there. You can get out with speed only, and I'll probably go over that tech later, but it's very, very not intended for you to be doing that unless you just feel like it. More freebie power bombs, and then Everest. Once again, we don't have high jump yet. We just have various speed booster and ammo, essentially, and morph. This is one, again, it's in medium, but it doesn't come up very often, so no one thinks about it. You can actually spark from the bottom left and end up right next to the top door. It's trivially easy. You just have to charge a spark down here and diagonally spark up. But I wanted to include it here because it's easy to forget about. I have forgotten about it so many times in seeds where it matters because it just comes up so rarely. And then once you get high jump, then you can come down here. Also, you have the map at this point. I gave you the map way over here. So you're gonna see all of this when you come into here. So it's not gonna be obvious like, oh, I need to go that way. You're gonna have to puzzle around a bit to figure out what exactly is expected here. Also, cross-room jumps, by the way, are not in logic. The only reason the spoiler says you can get to over here is because it expects you to spark out of Indiana Jones to get up. You can cross-room jump this, but it's very not in logic. It's not even in hard logic because of the precision of that particular one. But yeah, so we spark around here, and then after we get high jump, that opens up all the stuff down here. We start with a Maridia tube. I actually had this over here before, but I forgot you could just cross-room jump this. I don't want cross-room jumping through West Cack Alley for reasons we'll talk about. So yeah, you get high jump, you can platform all the way up through here with high jump, and then you can use speed booster. You can charge a spark from in here and spark all the way across. You have plenty of health to do that. You can also charge a spark over the top at the end here. It takes a short charge, but it's barely a short charge. And then once you get ice beam, that puts this room in logic. This is something that tripped me up in a seed a while back, because normally when you see West Cack Alley in a hard tricky seed, you're just doing a cross room jump. You're like, okay, I can jump down there. If it's a dry room, I can get back up, because you can do that on no equipment. If there's just a little bit of a runway, you can get across the room with a cross room jump. Once again, in medium, cross room jumps are out of logic. Cross room jump into water, that's hard tech. So anything involving a cross room jump is not in medium logic. What is in medium logic is using ice and high jump to get up this room. So even if there's a water room on the left side, if you have ice beam and you have high jump, you can freeze the cack on the top right here, and then use that to crouch jump and get to the ledge on the left. And that's something that's just easy to forget. It tripped me up in a medium seed because, like, to me, that's harder than just doing the cross room jump. But I've also just played enough hard tricky seeds that that's kind of trivial to me now. After Ice Beam, you get up through here. Don't come through here. This is a soft lock. Most people should know this by now. Hopefully you saved up here if you're thinking about going down there. But in Spring Ball Room, if you do not have Gravity Suit or Spring Ball, you cannot get out from where the item is. Because, let's pull up a thing here. It's right here. Because these are 1-tile jumps. You can do a 3-tile jump just fine. Jump and morph real quick without Gravity Suit and you can get up. That's fine. Doing it in the 2-tile gap, can't do it. Because you'll just bonk your head before you morph. There is a method that uses X-ray to clip into the floor to give yourself a little bit of extra space and you frame perfect. Ignoring that, you can't get out. And you don't have X-ray at this point in the seed anyway. So, yeah, these 2-tile jumps, can't do it. Can't get out. Not to mention this jump right here you couldn't escape from. But then you get Spring Ball, and as soon as you get Spring Ball, then you can do it. Just don't soft lock down there, please. Or maybe do, and then you'll learn, and you'll figure it out. You'll learn through suffering. That's Super Metroid in a nutshell. But yeah, so getting Spring Ball actually requires a speedy jump. This is another thing that doesn't come up very much. There's a little platform. If you just have high jump, you can't make this jump. With Speed Booster and high jump, you can run for literally like a tile. And that gives you just enough height to where you can wall jump off this ledge and get up. And that is, again, in medium logic. So again, just trying to show off things that you might not expect to be in medium logic, but they are. So, next thing, you remember how we sparked from bottom left to top left? You can do the same thing from this door. If you spark to the top right, you're not going to get up. But if you go diagonal left from the bottom right door, you actually end up on the platform right here. So yeah, if you spark from here, you just get stuck here, actually. You bonk the ceiling and you're done. But if you spark left, you land like right here, which is almost always useless. But if you specifically have high jump Spring Ball, it is then in medium logic to Spring Ball jump from here to this door. Spring Ball jump, if you don't know, is basically you have to start with Spring Ball disabled, and then you jump, morph, and pause, and then you enable Spring Ball after you've paused and jumped, and then you can Spring Ball jump from midair after enabling Spring Ball. It's weird, but it comes up a lot. It's very useful. Surprisingly, that's in medium compared to some of the easier tricks we've talked about. So that is in medium logic to get you up to here. So now that you have sparked up to here, you've gotten to Everest, or Main Street rather, it is now in logic to climb all the way up. We'll go over this in more detail, but with Spring Ball and high jump only, it is in medium logic to go all the way from the bottom of Main Street to the top. Another thing that doesn't come up very often in Mama Turtle Room, the typical way of dealing with Mama Turtle Room is you come down here, you shoot the babies of Mama Turtle, that wakes up Mama Turtle, then you jump on top of her, and then she will go up because she's chasing you, but you're on top of her. So she will go up, and she will be hovering out of the water. So typically, we either grapple to this block, or we space jump up, or we bomb jump up, or we just jump over to the wall and do stuff from there. However, something that I almost never see, you can also simply Spring Ball jump. High jump and Spring Ball let you jump high enough to get to this E-Tank. And that's a big part of why I routed all this the way that I did. I didn't want to give you bombs. I didn't want to give you space jump before this item in particular, because I want to show off that you can Spring Ball jump up to this item. Because even in hard tricky seeds, I think that still would trip up a lot of people, because it's not obvious that high jump and Spring Ball will actually get you that high, but it does. So yeah, that's what all this was for. It was possible before, it's still possible, to cheese going past all of this. If you look at the full map, it was possible to get over here, get gravity, and then just use gravity to come all the way back up, which is not how I want the seed to work, because I want people to be exposed to tricks they don't see very often. Because I had East Ocean over here before, but you can just use a spring ball jump. It's in hard logic, not medium, but like, I think Nito just did it without thinking. Like, it didn't even occur to him that this would be in hard logic to do the spring ball jump. So he just did it, and then he got gravity, and that kind of skipped a whole lot of the stuff I was trying to show off. So instead, I put Lava Grapple Tunnel, which you can damage boost across. You have enough health to do that at this point in the seed, so you could absolutely do that. But this, at the very least, communicates that, hey, you're not supposed to be going this way yet. This is very not medium logic. I don't think it's even... It might be in hard logic at that point. But then you run into moat, and then for moat, you would either need to, like, spring ball bounce across, which isn't very hard, or you would need a continuous wall jump, which might also be in very hard. Either way, getting through here is not in hard logic. Definitely not in medium logic. So that helps you communicate to the player, hey, you need to look for a different solution. And then once you get space jump, the other thing I wanted to show off, if you go into the logic tab and just look at medium tech, it's right here. This doesn't come up very often, even in hard. So it's one of those things that's easy to forget that it's there, and it's easy to forget how easy it is. So like, this is something that puts a lot of tech and logic that you wouldn't think about in medium. I think it was used on beach at one point to get out of the water. Yeah, so like getting from here to here is like a very precise jump if you don't have any equipment. Space jump actually puts it in logic because you can bounce on the surface of the water. Let me actually click on this so y'all know what I'm talking about, because this, again, this doesn't come up very often, so it's easy to just forget. This right here. So like, if you're at the surface of the water, you jump, you spin jump. See, normally you can't do anything with that, right? Even at, like, wall jumping is absolutely not going to do anything. But you can jump, and with space jump, you can just barely break the surface of the water and actually get out. So yeah, that's why I gave space jump and included a whole bunch of stuff. Unfortunately, because I had to give you spring ball to give you space jump, I can't really force anyone to figure that out. So you're just gonna have to look at the spoiler or like come back to a video like this to even see that. So space jump puts this in logic, puts this in logic, and then it puts East Ocean in medium logic. Without space jump, it would be hard logic. With space jump, it's in medium. So then that gives you your gravity suit and your screw attack. You'll also notice Ridley's right here. And as I mentioned before, all these supers that you were able to break logic for, this is your reward for getting all those supers. Because if you look here on this step, let's say this step where we got space jump, you only have 20 supers if you did medium logic and did a lot of backtracking. So like, you're not gonna feel like killing Ridley here. You don't have charge beam either. That's why I designed a lot of this the way that I did, so that you can have like tiny little logic breaks along the way that will give you a big reward of just being able to clear Ridley right now. Because if you don't kill Ridley now, you're gonna have to go all the way through Norfair, through Maridia, and then loop back around to come back with charge beam to do this fight. Similar thing with Crade. You look at this point, Crade's not in logic yet. If you don't do the water shine charge and you don't do a gate glitch, you gotta wait all the way until you get gravity suit so you can come back for wave beam, and then you can come back for Crade. So yeah, you get a big reward if you're doing small logic breaks along the way. You get to skip all of the backtracking, you can just do it in one shot. Yeah, anyway, next up we have East Ocean. We talked about space jump, water bounce. Then we have worst room in the game. A lot of people don't think about being able to just kill the pirates with ammo. They take damage from missiles, from super missiles, and power bombs. So if you come in with enough, you can just kill them. And we've had some seeds where that was placed very early. There's been a lot of debate over how early it should be allowed in terms of how much ammo. But yeah, if you have various suit and you have enough ammo, you can just kill the pirates. So I wanted to show that off. You could also do like the strats for like dodging around them or just tanking the damage, because we have plenty of health at this point. But I wanted to at least give opportunity for people to notice that. All right, and then once you get gravity suit, the rest is pretty straightforward. You get screw attack, so going back down is easy. Then you have to go through East Cack Alley, which requires gravity, unless you're on extreme difficulty, expert plus maybe. But yeah, you need gravity for Cack Alley, and then amphitheater, and then screw attack room, and a one-way through climb supers. And if that wasn't enough, there's a one-way through caterpillar room. And then you finally get your charge plasma. And again, Previously collectible is only 20 supers. So yeah, if you didn't get the supers, you have to loop through, climb supers, caterpillar room, go up to here, go across main hall, bubble mountain, post croc farm room, Mickey Mouse room, Metroid room 2, spore spawn super room, Boyan gate hall, flower house room, landing site, moat, lava grapple tunnel, Mount Everest, back up to Main Street, and Batcave to finally fight Ridley. So again, the shtick of this Plando is you can do everything on medium. If all you can do is medium tricks, you should be able to finish this Plando. But if you're willing to or able to learn some hard tricks that come up a lot in races and hard tricky races, which if you're in the mentor tournament, I would assume that your goal is to get to the point where you can do hard tricky races, then this gives you a perfect incentive to work on those. But yeah, anyway, so you get your charge, plasma, bomb, screw attack. You have all your mages at this point, basically. Then you get grapple beam, which becomes important. There's a bunch of reserves over here. We'll talk about those later. But yeah, so next up is Pants Room. You needed grapple beam, logically, to clear Pants Room. If you're unfamiliar with Pants Room, it's the room that comes shortly before Shack Tool and Spring Ball in vanilla, right here. Pants Room, Shack Tool, Spring Ball is usually right here. So this room, you're supposed to use grapple beam to break this block, use space jump, climb up, drop back down through the crumbles, and then be on your merry way. So yeah, you get grapple beam, you can do Dragon, then you get, oh look, another reserve. I wonder why that's there. Red Tower, you get an E-Tank, so you can top off that reserve you just got, or you could do it here at the refill room. And then we get Big Boy Room. If you don't know what Big Boy Room is, probably better known as Baby Skip Room. So, this was very intentional. Creates a very interesting puzzle to solve. Again, if we go back to the logic page, Hand Crystal Flash, that is in hard logic. This is probably the solution most people are going to use, to be fair. And this is worth learning. It's worth learning and getting used to doing Crystal Flash. So, if that's what people do, I'm okay with it. But there's multiple solutions to this problem. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, Baby Room, Baby grabs onto you, leaves you at 1 HP. And for Mother Brain, you are required, hard required, to have 3 tanks of health. Either reserves or E-tanks, doesn't matter which. But you need 3 full tanks. You need 301 health to survive the Rainbow Beam from Mother Brain. So if you're left at 1 health, you can't do that. But if you go back and refill, then the baby respawns, and you go through it all again. So the first, most obvious solution most people will find is you just Crystal Flash after baby. You get your health back. You lost 10 supers, which might slow down your Mother Brain fight, depending on what your loadout is, but you get full health. Cool. You learned to Crystal Flash. Neat. But there's some more creative ways of doing it. The logical way to do this is actually to grab all 4 tanks. If these 4 tanks weren't here, let me just show this off. This is the Plando. So right now I can click on Mother Brain and it shows a route. This is how you beat Mother Brain. If I remove one of these, suddenly that step disappears. Flag not logically clearable. So what this seed wants is it wants you to collect all 4 reserve tanks, fill them up. So you have 4 tanks now. You have 400 HP in your reserves. And then you go through Baby Room. So you enter Mother Brain with 401 health. And that logically is enough to do this in medium. I think it's been brought up, and that might actually be adjusted because this came up in a different seed. And 4 tanks might be a bit strict, but also you can just Crystal Flash. So, So that's the logical solution. The other solution is just Crystal Flash. The fun solution, which there's no way to force people to do this, but I tried to craft it in a way that incentivizes people to look for this solution. So you'll notice your save is over here. And you had to go through all of this, and you killed Dragon. And then you had to do this. If you don't go back to the save, and you die to Mother Brain, you're going to have to kill Dragon again. So, if you don't want to do that, you might want to go back through here and save again, right? One thing you can do So yeah, you can go through, you can get to Mother Brain 1, you can shoot a bunch of missiles to break the tank, break the glass on the tank, but not depleting Mother Brain's health. Just as long as the glass is gone, it will stay gone. What's cool about that is if you come from the back door of Mother Brain after having broken the glass, you can do damage to Mother Brain and start the fight that way. So, another option, aside from crystal flashing or just having 4 reserves, you can come through here, do baby skip, refill your, you got your reserve, so you'll have 101 health at minimum because I forced you to pick up this reserve tank. You go through, you break the glass, and because you're scared of doing the fight, you come all the way back around, you save here, so now you're safe. You also have a health and ammo refills on the way. So you come back here, you're safe, and then you come back down to this door and easily just start the fight from there with full resources. And you didn't even have to crystal flash. This is not a logical solution. I don't know what the logic is. It's probably in hard. I don't think it's in medium to do it that way. But yeah, that's one of the cool ways I wanted to give you the option to do this fight. Again, I can't force it, but you have like 3 different options. So I like this ending to Mother Brain to give you a problem to solve, but you also have multiple ways to solve it. And yeah, so another thing to note with this Mother Brain, if you're doing Zeb skip, intuitively you might think, oh, I have to break all the Zebs to get to Mother Brain because I also have to leave. You don't quite have to do that. You can skip this first Zeb, and then these will be gone. You can break the tank and come back, and then just break this Zeb on the way out. So you only have to break 1 Zeb instead of 4. So that would be the slightly more efficient way of doing that, but yeah. Anyway. Yeah. That is the Plando. Hopefully I can trim this video down a little bit, but I just wanted to like talk through my intent and my thought process on making this Plando, kind of highlight and point out some of the things that you might not have known were in medium logic, or things you thought would have been in medium logic but aren't. So yeah, hopefully this helps some people. Again, this is going to be a long playlist with a bunch of different videos for different steps of the Plando. I don't know how long it'll take me to finish it, but I'll try to get a bunch of it knocked out pretty quick here. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy the Plando. Hope people learn some stuff. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.